Alright guys, welcome back. We are going to move on to a quick review of the engineering design process. We are in the second section of Module 1. Just as a reminder, after this there is an assessment, and for each assessment you must score an 80% or above to move to the next section. The purpose of this presentation is to make sure you understand the engineering design process. We're also going to relate the engineering design process to the 3D printers. So I know for some of you, you already understand the process, so this is the review, and some of you are also asking, how does this process relate to the printers and why are we wasting time reviewing it? Well, I promise you, it's not a waste. So what is the process? Just for those who I'm not sure, it's a series of steps that leads to a solution. Often the solution involves designing a product that accomplishes a task. A scenario presented earlier was Mrs. McKeon's fish tank went missing, and we need to find a way to solve that problem. So what is the problem? Well, in our scenario, the fish tank is missing its lid. And as you would guess, that could cause some problems for any fish that live in there. Dust, debris, contaminants can easily get in the water, and that could really affect any animals that are living in there. So we've identified our problem. That's what the ask is about. You also ask yourself, what can I do to solve the problem? This is the point where you just think about what has been done. What has been done before? What can I possibly do? The main difference here for us in the printers is whatever solution we come up with, we're going to try to use the 3D printers to find the answer to it. So the first step, always understand what the problem is. Then you imagine the possibilities. What can you do? Brainstorm a list. What has been done before, but what can you do that's new? Because any idea is a good idea. You just need to find a possible solution. Once you have a good list, then you make a decision. What solution do I believe is the best solution for the problem? With our fish tank scenario, the obvious solution is to create a lid. And throughout this course, that is what we're going to try to do for Mrs. McKeon and her fish. Next step, what do you need? How do I create this solution? What do I need to have to make it happen? So draw a diagram, map it out. What's the sizes? What's the dimensions? What materials do I have? Whatever you need to do, plan it out. That is what you need to do. As part of this step, we also want you to gather your resources. The main thing we would need for our scenario is we need the 3D printing CAD software, we need the 3D printers, but we also want to take some time and design it out on paper first, so we need paper and some type of writing utensil, probably just a pencil. And a ruler, because we want to make sure it's proportionally correct, because a bad design will lead you to a bad product. That's why the planning stage is so important. The planning stage is probably the most important step for you guys as you're designing on the printers, because if you have problems with your design, with your planning, your design's going to have problems as well. Now it's the fun part. You get to create your product, whatever that product is. With us on the 3D printers, you're going to use something like Tinkercad, Onshape, Fusion 360 to design the product out, and then we're going to print it out. So that's the fun part. You get to actually create something. Outside of the printers, you also could use whatever materials we have in the makerspace, whatever your teacher is providing, whatever you have at home. This is the part that you get hands-on. So it's a lot more oomph to it, which is a great thing. Once you have your product created, you need to test it. Did it work? Does it fix your problem? So in our scenario, we take our lid, we just got to make sure it fits, we got to make sure it fits snugly, no contaminants can get in to the fish tank, because we want to make sure the health of the fish is ensured. If it doesn't work, why didn't it work? What can you do to make it better? You're going to basically evaluate how well it does. Last step, also a very important step, use the data. After you test it, what worked? What didn't work? How do you fix what didn't work? How can you make it even better? Make those improvements. Test it again. Always try to make your product again But on a side note, what happens if your product doesn't work in the test stage? Well, this is when you want to reflect. Reflection is very important. If, let's say, our fish tank still doesn't work, what do we need to do to make it better? So in that scenario, you want to start over. You want to go back to the ask stage and start from the beginning. Maybe you frame your questions a little different since you've already been through the problem, but maybe you ask what needs to be different. And that is essentially the 3D printing, the engineering design process as it relates to our printers. So as you design your prints, use the process to guide your thinking. Always do the ask and imagine before you even think about the printers. You need to have your problem defined. You need to have a list of potential solutions before you can make the best decision on your solution. But then you plan it out. And the planning is what you guys want to jump right into. Don't do that. You have to plan it well before you can create it. Don't try to skip the steps. The better your plan, the better the product you're going to be is. So that is our short little lesson review on the engineering design process. Hope you found it informative. Hopefully it was a nice refresher for all of you. Move on to your assessment here in a moment, and good luck for the rest of the course.